Hello, how are you? I hope you're all very, very well. Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm so excited. So I've managed to get this amazing duvet cover, brand new in a packet from a charity shop, and it's a single one, but the great thing about this one is it's the same design on each side. You know, normally you'll get the top is different from the back, so I generally go for double or king size to give me a lot of material, but this is a single, beautiful, thick 100% cotton, and as I say, the same design on both sides. And also look at this, they've got some beautiful wooden buttons, and crikey, you know, I need to put that on something as well. So I'm really excited about making a dress out of this, I must say. Can't you tell in my excitement? So I'm going to go for my favourite pattern, which is the Merchant & Mills Ellis dress. Got some more fabric that I've shown you in the previous videos that I'm going to make the hattie in for summer, because that's a check, yellow one. But this one, it's calling to be worn now, isn't it? Look at it, absolutely gorgeous. So pattern's already cut out, get it cut out and pinned up, and then I'll get back to you. Right friends, so the excitement begins. So I mentioned that I managed to get this beautiful duvet, and somebody asked me some time ago, how do you actually utilise duvets for dressmaking? And it's all to do with the pattern on the actual duvet cover. Certain patterns will need matching, and certain pattern design will need you to make sure that the pattern is going the same way when you cut each pattern piece out. And that might sound obvious, but often on the back of a fabric, or if you are having to fold it and cut it out and then fold it again, you might actually make the error, if you're not careful, of getting the pattern the wrong way, or upside down, or going across. So it's not always straightforward. So this one has got checks. Fortunately for me, it's the same on both sides. It's got a side seam on the two sides, and it's very, very long. So I need to revert to the actual pattern instruction to see how the pattern pieces should be cut out on a normal sized fabric, and then work out how I'm going to fold this fabric to replicate the exact layout that's required. So always just check so that you make sure that you're doing it correctly. And obviously you've got to make sure if it's on the right side of the fabric or the wrong side of the fabric, etc. And the Ellis dress, that's the one I'm making today, their fabric is just one complete length folded in half, and all the pattern pieces laid out on that. Now I'm going to have two pieces of fabric, because what I'm going to have to do is use the front and the back and then fold it over. So that'll mean I'll have two pieces. They're not joined together. Unless what I do is use the very bottom edge. So what I could do is, where the bottom edge is, if I open the side seams, and then at the bottom edge, we've got a seam, haven't we? We could just literally fold that out. But we've still got to be aware that there is a edge there, and wherever it's cut, there would be a seam. And so I don't want a seam in the middle of a skirt halfway down going across. You've got to be very careful. So I always do a mock-up and just lay it out with the pattern pieces on first, so that you can see if it's going to work. Otherwise, if it doesn't, I'll cut it, you know, and I'll feel confident. But looking on the pattern for the Ellis, and I'll show you here, you can see these three here. The differences are the width, obviously, of the fabric. That's your fold line. So you've just got one continuous piece, like I said before. So we're going to manipulate it. One is for 140 and 150 wide, 8 to 14. And then these others are 120 wide, 8 to 14. And that's 140 and 150 wide for the sizes 16 to 18. So they're the big sizes. So we're going to just do this one, or this, and I've got off the duvet cover package 135 by 200. So we're going in then at the 120 wide, because it's not 140 or 150. So we'll have to go into this long one and fold it in half. So what I might do is just see if I can get those two skirt panels, number 7, if you you can see. They're the two skirt sections, and then the rest of the bodice and the shoulders at the top. So that top bit is with all the sleeves, bodice, front and back, and those are the two skirt panels. So I'm going to have a little mock-up. I'm going to go on the floor, put all the pattern pieces on, work it all out, cut it out, and then we'll get for sewing. So I've cut it in half, separated the front to the back, keeping the actual directions. So the buttons help me know what was the top and what was the bottom of the fabric. And I'm cutting out the rest, and the pattern layout was great. So the top half on the first side, and then the bottom half on the second. I've still got quite a bit left. Just lengthening my sleeves now, and I've done this skirt pocket bag and this part, which is front neck facing, and pretty much cut nearly all of it out. So I had to cut the duvet cover in 2 parts to do this. So now we're starting a dress, and on number 1 it'll say interfacing. I'm the fusible interfacing to the wrong side of the front neck facing, number 4, and the back neck facing. Interfacing, fusible interfacing. You can buy sew on interfacing or fusible. Now the bumpy side is the adhesive side. This is the side with the rough bumpy texture that's got the glue on it. That should always be placed against the wrong side of your fabric. The smooth side is the top, and that should always be facing upwards. Alright, now when applying the fusible interfacing, place it on your fabric with the adhesive side down, so you get your piece, and then you've got your bumpy side, the actual fabric, and place it on your fabric with the adhesive side down. So that's that bumpy side again. So I've just cut it out, and I'll put both of them on, and then just chop it off, cut round it. But what you need is a pressing cloth, and you want to iron it with firm pressure. That activates the glue and it'll then stick to it. Okay, so we'll do that now on both the number 4 and number 5. And fusible interfacing to the wrong side of the front neck facing and the back neck facing pieces. So it says put your cloth on top, iron it until it's really, really nice and warm. Hopefully then the glue has been activated. And now I'll take my cloth off, check, that's stuck. Okay, and then you can see that it's actually stuck now, and that's the rear part of it. I'm just going to just chop it, kneading it off now with a pair of scissors. Gives it a nice thickness to it, and obviously it will lay nice and flat as well with it being a facing piece. So I'll put those together back with the pattern piece, so I've got them, and then we'll do the same for number 4. Right, so we've got our 2 interfacings done now, so that's number 1. So number 2 is the rouleau again. Rouleau. So cut a square fabric 5 centimetres square on the straight grain. Fold diagonally in half, that's square. Stitch 0.5 centimetres away from the fold, a long line. Trim it, and then what you've got, a real pain to turn it inside out, I must admit. But then you've got a really lovely loop to go on the back of your dress. So it is a bit of a pain to do, but it's a real nice feature on this dress when it's done. So get on with that. And then you start putting it on the back neck facing and sewing it down. We'll put all the neck facings together, and then we'll go on to the front and back bodice. So we'll do this rouleau now. All these little extras, at the end of the day, it really it makes it. You do the little piece of fabric yourself, so get an offcut. It's 5 centimetres square. So you've got a nice piece, a little square piece of fabric, and then you fold it bang in half like so. And then you're going to sew, so you've got now a triangle, haven't you? And then what you're going to do is you're going to sew a line like that, about 1.5 centimetres in. Okay, so it'll be like that then, your sewing line along the edge of that pair of scissors. Then you will attempt to turn it inside out, and then you'll have a nice little loop which you'll be able to use. You'll chop that excess off, of course. So that's what you're left with. So I've trimmed all it off, and that's what you left it. Now you need to turn it inside out. And basically, it says attach a threaded bodkin needle to one end of the rouleau and thread it through the tube and pull it so it's the right side out, and then press it. So just take a needle with some very thick thread and put your needle through the end of the cotton and there at the end of the fabric. Then push that needle through without touching the sides of the fabric to the other side. Okay, and then what you should be able to do is hopefully pull it through. If you knot it, and then you've got your nice rouleau, which is a little tube to use later. Right, what I've just done now is with right sides together and matching seam lines, I've stitched the back neck facing to the front neck facing at the shoulder seams, like so. Trim the seam allowances, and then I've done a zigzag all the way around that edge as well, so it's nice and neat and it off. And neat the outer edge of the neck facing with a zigzag or an overlocker, whichever you've got. Now I'm going to press on and go to the neck darts now, which is with right sides together and matching notches, pin and stitch the neck darts onto the front bodice, and that is number 5. Right, so with the right sides together, we've actually pinned and stitched the neck darts now. I'll show you those. Okay, so there's 4 darts. So we've actually done those bust darts now. Okay, so we need to stitch them on the front bodice. Press the bust darts down, and then what we're going to start on is the back shoulder seams. So I'm just going to sew these and press them, and we'll get onto the back shoulder. Right, so we've done the shoulder seams, we've sewn them and zigzagged them now, so they're attached, the back and the front together. And press them all now, and then we'll progress on to the next section. So we're going to go on to the next page, which is always nice, because you know you're moving forward. And that is attaching the neck facing to the bodice. So with right sides together and matching shoulder seams, stitch facing to the bodice at the neck. Note the seam allowance around the neck is 1 centimetre only. Layer the seam allowance and clip into the curves. Press your seam allowance towards the facing. So we're going to do that now, attaching the seam, attaching your facing to that bodice top, and then neatening it off and pressing. So I'll do that and I'll come back to you shortly and show you how it is. Right, so I've sewn all the facings all the way around, attaching it to the front and the back bodice. I'm going to turn it now inside out, obviously press it all the way down, like so. So I'll show you that shortly. Right, so this stage was stage 21, keeping the seam allowance towards the facing and working from the right side edge stitch just inside the facing. So I've just put a little running stitch, I don't know if you can see on here, but it's just along the facing there. This will help to keep a crisp edge when you press it back. So I've pressed it back anyway. That's the inside, the facings, and it looks lovely and neat, and it will lay flat now. I'm really happy how it's going so far. And when I actually turned it inside out, we've got that little loop that's come out. Okay, so that will be for a button, and that's come out on the facing, and it'll be on the back side, and you'll loop it over a button later on. So that's that section now. So what we're up to now is number 24, centre back seam. So if you remember, we've got our, this is the back seam, we've got the facings all put in inside, and I've put a zigzag stitch on. We've got the rouleau, or the actual loop, so we can put the button on later. We've overstitched it all around on the outside edge, and that's the front. This is the back. So the back now, with right sides together, stitch the back bodice together at the centre back, keeping the facing out of the way. Neaten the edge of the seam with an overlocker or zigzag and press open. And then working from the inside of the back facing, stitch the centre back seam allowance of the facing to the centre back seam allowances of the bodice, and then press. And then we'll be doing the side seams, which will be bringing it all together. And then neating off inside the facings, attaching it to secure it on the shoulder seam as well. and then we'll move on to the sleeves. So that is what we're working on at the moment. And then we'll go on to doing the side seam section after that, and attaching the facing to the shoulder just with a stitch. Don't need to be done on the sewing machine, hand stitch. Right, so I've done the back seam here and overlap here. So that's the back seam now, so everything's matching. The back seam's all matching, and then you've got your loop that'll come over and put your button on at the back. Front, so now it is time to do the side seams now. So I'll just do those and I'll show you in a moment what it's like. Right, bodice is all sewn up at the sides on the bodice, and next is the sleeves. So you're going to work 2 rows of stitching on the top sleeve. I've extended mine because I want a nice long sleeve on this. So work 2 rows of E-stitch on the sleeve between the front and the back notches as shown. So it's here to here. 2. Work 2 parallel lines of stitching on the right side, one slightly higher than the seam line, a thread's width, and another 0.5 centimetres above the first. Leave long threads. You're going to pull that and gather that in from this section to this section in the sleeve hole on your bodice, dragging it in, and then sew them together and sew up each seam on that from top to bottom, and then we're going to insert this into our bodice. Right then, so now what we've done is we've set in the sleeves with the right sides together and matching the notches. I've pinned the sleeve into the armhole and I've drawn up the stitches and gathered it in a little bit in between the notches. Okay, and then I've pinned it all the way around each sleeve. And now what I'm going to do is sew it in, and then I'll zigzag the seam together and I'll turn in towards the sleeve, and then we'll just catch it on the seams, catch those facings on the seams as well, and then we'll progress on to the next section. But this is just setting in the sleeves, so let's sew these up. And it's lovely, it's coming together nicely. And as I've made this pattern before, it's not taking me as long to understand, you know, the pattern, etc. But it's a nice pattern. It just, I think it said intermediate level, skill level. So that's quite interesting. I suppose it's got quite a few skills to undertake, certainly with the little loop that you make. But I do love this pattern and the style of it. I'm going to go straight on doing the zigzag after the straight stitch on the seams. Next one, and then we'll press everything, trim the edges down so that the seams are nice and neat. Then turn up the sleeves. Right then, so I'm just turning the hems of the sleeves up now. I'm going to zigzag that and then turn them up again and do a running stitch, and then we're going to start on the skirt section. Attach the pocket bags first onto the skirt panel, and then gather the skirt, attaching the skirt to the main bodice and pulling your bobbins in to gather it all up, and then secure sew it. So what I'm doing is the pattern pieces now. So I've put the front and the back pieces, the skirt pieces together, and what I did do is just think, right, well, we'll put right sides together of the pattern pockets together like so, pin them up on there, and then you would, on the right side later, you'll do this when you've sewn it down. You then turn it out like that, and then you'll do all that round there, and then when you open it up, you'll be able to put your hands in that pocket. So that's quite an easy way for me to understand how I do it. So I've basically now got, this is inside out if you like, and the piece is pegged up on the outside like so, and right sides together. This is the wrong side, and then we'll then sew that seam down on each side. Then when we come to do the side seams, we'll sew here and right round the edge of the pocket, and then back down the side seam down to the hem line. Then you'll be able to slide on the right side your hands into the pocket. So I hope that makes sense, and that makes it easier for me to work out where I place the pockets. Right, the next stage now is to sew up the side seams. I've pinned the side seams now together, so I'm going to literally just start at the waist, go around. Right, so start at the waist, go and sew all the way around that pocket edge, and then up there, and then down, all the way down here on each side to the hem bottom. Okay, so I'm going to do that now and I'll show you in a minute. So we've done that now, so I'll just show you on the right side. So if you just turn it to the right side, you've then got your seams, and I've lined them all up so they match on the side seam, of course, and then you've got your pocket where you put your hand in, all sorted. So I'm quite pleased with that. So next section now is gathering the skirt. So instructions say gathering the skirt is the same for the Hattie and the Alice dress. Make sure your notches are visible, including the centre front and centre back. Working with the largest stitch on your machine, work 2 parallel lines of stitching on the right side of the skirt, one slightly higher than the seam line, a thread's width, and another 0.5 centimetres above the first, starting and stopping at the side seams. Leave the long thread ends. So you're going to do double gather stitches, lots of length at each side so you can pull it right in. And then we're going to attach the skirt to the bodice. So attaching the skirt with the right side of the skirt facing the right side of the bodice, and the matching notches, pin at intervals to distribute the fullness. Then pull the bobbin threads on one side to gather the fullness and tie them off. Add more pins to secure. Repeat from the other side. So get those notches pinned up around the skirt, and then you start pulling it in when you've got those positions in place. So we're going to do on the very top now 2 lines of gathered stitch all the way around the top. And the sun is out, guys. It's a lovely day now. Nice to get out on the moors, I think. Maybe tomorrow, if it's nice and I finish this dress, I shall go onto the moors and enjoy myself. So I've got a huge waist skirt with pockets going onto a much less smaller top. So we're going to have to do this really carefully. So what we want to do is pop the top inside the right sides together and put it inside this skirt. Get the arms out of the way, push those all down, and the neck and everything. So you've just got basically the skirt and the top inside it. And have a little look now for the notches, because that's what we want to do. We can pin those together so we kind of know where we're needing to keep the pieces together. Got another notch here, pop that on there. I always put a few pins in, try and make sure that it's upright as well with your checks. Right way up, put about 3 pins in, then it'll level it off. Find your next lot of notches and do the same, pin them together. I'm going to put 3 pins in just so that it doesn't move. And I can see there's a lot of fabric to gather up in this. It's a very full skirt. I've made these before, I do like it. So we've got the 4 key points. Alright, so we've actually matched the notches, and we want to pin intervals to distribute the fullness as well. So we'll have a little look at in between that. Let's just go for the middle bit and pin that up. And this way you get to even fullness all the way around the skirt, nice and even when it's all pinned together. Hopefully then you'll see how lovely it looks. Right, so what I've done is I've gathered and pinned it, probably about 8 or 10 different sections what I've pinned, and now I'm going to pull it now and get the actual gathered string, so we're actually gathering it properly. And what that will do, it'll make it all very similar all the way around the skirt. Take your time, because it's very easy to break these cords if you're rushing and pulling it very hard. Just slowly ease them through. When you've got halfway you're gathering, just check it, and if it's enough, then what you can do is come in from the other end. Then I'll start from the other side and come backwards again. It's amazing what fabric you can find out there, you know, and also what use you can make things from. You know, don't always just think you've got to buy brand new fabric off the roll in a fabric shop. There's some beautiful ones, so I'm not saying don't, because it's fantastic to support these local fabric shops, because they give you a great service and they generally know a lot about the type of fabric and can recommend a pattern suitable for it, etc. But also be mindful, you know, when you're out and about, and if you're sort of in other shops that have got maybe a sale on, look for things that are made out of the fabric that you're looking for. So you might be looking for cotton, and there might be a tablecloth that's a pretty thing in a sale, for example, and you could make a beautiful blouse and top often out of tablecloth. You get quite a lot, you know, in a very large rectangle size. So it's just being mindful basically of the type of fabric that you're looking at. You know, if there's a bargain out there, sometimes it's nice, isn't it, to find something that you're kind of looking for and it's a good price. There's a good shop called Dunelm's, used to be called Dunelm Mills years ago. Right, so I have attached the bodice now to the gathered skirt. Be very careful here, guys, because, and I'll probably do it again, every time I do this I generally somehow pinch part of the gathering and it sort of gets sewn in, and then it seems to fall at a bad angle. So what I'm going to do is take it very, very carefully, and I've pinned so many pins around here. There must be about 50 pins now in here, and I'm just going to basically do it really slow and try and get the pleats going the correct way as I am sewing. So just take your time with this. It really, really pays off if you do. And then just do one stitch, check it's all right, turn it the right way up and check the line. You might find that you've got some of the gathering stitches showing on the other side, but if you've actually sewn it correctly and all your pleats look fab, you know, nice and neat and everything, what you can do is just go in and unpick those original gathering stitches that you've left on, so it's not noticeable afterwards. And then when you're happy with that stitch line and there's no gathering stitches showing, do another one, zigzag it all, and then neaten that section off. I haven't got a serger, so I've only got a zigzag. I do like the idea of these French seams, and I'm going to start trying to have a go at the French seams, because it's such a lovely neat edge. Instead of seeing all the gathering or, you know, raw edge and zigzag and whatever, you're then only looking at sort of a very, very nice neat edge, because you've caught it inside in the process of doing the French seam. So I want to try and learn how to do that, but obviously I'm not doing it today with this. I'm going to have a go on just plain stitches and 2 layers of fabric, and have a go in that in the future, but that's one for another time. So yeah, I'm going to do that now, and I'll show you when I've finished. As I say, I'll do that, sew it all round, make sure it's all neat on the outside, on the right side, then I'll zigzag it all off, trim it all off, and then I think when we've done that, we have only got the hem to do. Here we go. I'm loving it. This is my Cabbages Roses Inspired Dress, and it's not cost me £350. and I'm really pleased with it. Really love it. Let's see if I can show you it all. I'll walk back and then hopefully you can see the length of it. It's really lovely. Neckline's nice. Extended the sleeves so they're just sort of over the elbow. Prefer it. Put a nice little button on the back. Love it gathered. Lots of lovely pockets. I love pockets on dresses anyway, so that's good. So yeah, I'd really recommend making it. It's got a lovely, nice feel to it. I'll just pop this jumper on and show you. So this is with a tank top, and the tank top serves the purpose of bringing it right in at the waist, which is lovely because it's very big otherwise. And I don't mind it, but I like it with the tank top as well. But I hope you like it. Really nice, and I'm very pleased with it. And this has been my duvet cover Ellis dress by Merchants and Mills, which has been my sort of copy of Cabbages Roses style as well, which I love but I can't afford. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the channel soon, and I hope it's inspired you to get out there and look at fabric in a different way, be it a tablecloth, duvets, curtains, fabric. Yeah, it's nice to make something into it. Thanks for watching, see you soon, bye for now.